Today I'm sharing with you guys a brand new Necromancer build, or at least maybe new to some of you. As many of you may know that follow the channel, I've recently swapped over to Necromancer inside of Diablo Immortal. Now, I haven't played Necro in over a year, so I was missing a lot of essences, and within the time that since I've switched to now, which has really only been about a week and a half, a lot of people have reached out to me with their Necromancer builds, with information with what gems I should be using, and just kind of re-upping me on all the details of Necro, a class that I haven't played as since a year ago. I have to tell you, in that time, I have fallen back in love with the Necromancer. My god, it is so much fun to play. I like doing summons builds for mostly PvE related content, which is kind of what we're being shared here today from Aaron. And as you can see, this build in action is very fast, not on how fast the Necro runs around, but fast on how just it melts through any enemies that it encounters. I'm going to take you through the gems being used, the secondary gear, primary gear, and then we'll look at a little bit more action as we get towards the end of the video. If you want to build out your Necromancer like this, all the details are going to be within this video. So let's go ahead and move things forward and actually get into the primary attack, which is Bone Spear. I also personally like using Bone Spear because I feel like you could do more targeted damage. Piercing damage, straight ahead, no swerviness that you get from Soulfire. I personally like Bone Spear. I run it in my build as well, so I like that. Dark Curse is something I'm not using in my build, but as you'll see from this video here today, curse all enemies in an area dealing 36,000 damage. Dark Curse now defiles the ground in an area, causing enemies within it to take more damage. Yeah, I want to see what it says right there, but I can't see it. Then he's going in with the Skeletal Mage, a staple that we get when we're utilizing a summons build. He then has Command Skeletons as well. Actually, let's go back a little bit and see with Skeletal Mage, he also has, let's see what kind of the essences are changing. He's utilizing Thunder Mage. He is getting damage increased by 18%. Skeletal Mage damage is also increased by another 10. And from the offhand, increases all damage you deal by 9.5 for the Skeletal Mage for each you have active. And he's got some from his charm as well. Command Skeletons, pretty standard that we get with our summons build as well. And he has the Storm Rider Legion. And then moving forward, what else do we have here? He has more charm damage from that as well. And then he comes into Command Golem, which he is using a Poison Golem, which a lot of us really like to use. It drops a lot of damage. He also has, Command Golem also makes nearby enemies vulnerable, causing them to take 15% increased damage. And he's got it awakened, because we're going to get into what awakened slots he has in just a minute. He does take us into his gems now, showing us all of the gems that he's actually using, starting with the Seeping Bile, Echoing Shade, Zwenson's Haunting. He also goes with a Starfire Shard and a Blood-Soaked Jade. Then he has two 2-stars, Mother's Lament. He has Pain Clasp, and then one 1-star, which is Freedom and Devotion. Notice that he does have these 1, 2, 3, all awakened slots. These 5 stars is going to be very hard to awaken those. So you all know I use Freedom and Devotion, Pain Class, Mother's Lament, and Blood-Soaked Jade. These other 4 I am not using. That's just me though. This is his build, not my story. So let's get on a little bit further. He's going to share what sets he's using. He's going with a 4-piece Banquet of Eyes. Damage dealt to enemies suffering from your continual damage effects increased by 15%, and your critical hit chance is increased by 2.5 up to 25% for every continual damage effect you inflict upon nearby enemies. Big, strong set pieces right there. Second set he's using is Shepherd's Call to the Wolves, which is pretty standard when you're talking about a summon build for a Necromancer. Your summons deal 15% more damage. Who doesn't want that if you're using a summons build? It's really a must-use. Also, critical hit chance increased by 3% for each of your summons, up to a maximum of 18%. Nice stuff. He goes through all the pieces right there, but we just need to know what the 2 4-piece sets he's using are. Then, the gear he's going through, he doesn't take us through what the essences actually do. We did look at that when we were looking at the skills that were actually chosen in the beginning, but he's coming in with Blinding Storm headpiece. He goes to Stormcaller's Bones chest. He uses the Executive Discontent shoulders, followed by Mournful Destroyer pants. Then we go to his primary weapon, Pleasant Venom. Secondary weapon is Corrosive Slab. Then he has his stance weapons, the first primary being Wicked Husker, and the secondary being Crest of the Sky Fallen. Those are the 8 pieces of gear that you're using. We know the gems, we know the set pieces, we know all of his attributes. Keep in mind, he is sitting with around 4,000 resonance. You don't need that resonance for PvE, especially when you're someone that doesn't want to rock or use 5-star gems. Like myself, I'm sitting under 1,500 resonance right now, but we also have work to do with that build. So the pet that he's using doesn't matter. Essentially, we're going to be utilizing the best pet that we have, and it's actually pretty cool to see right here the Elder Rift run that he does, because he's going to dive into an Elder Rift right now that's going to be a round of only bosses. Check out how quickly he melts through this Elder Rift where he's only focused on bosses. It is extremely impressive in my opinion. So let's go through here, and he's going to have the first boss spawned right in front of him now. Check this out. He's going to all the skills popped right there. Everything gone. Dark Curse, remember, it was dealing 36,000 damage. And all the summons on top of that, all the electricity bouncing between the skeletons as well. Crazy impressive stuff. He's taking each boss down in approximately 1 to 2 seconds, which I can say I'm not currently doing with my build. Now, he does go in and do another Elder Rift, but he also starts running the Accursed Towers, which I actually like. It's a great game mode inside of the game where you're timed. You have to go unlock these pillars, which will give you shards, and then you have to, the cursed sources, I should say, they give you the shards, and then you have to kill enemies to extend your time. The longer you could extend your time, the better off you'll be, and you'll be able to stay in and collect more for your clan, for your personal self. But he here gives an example of what it looks like to take down enemies. We saw him just do the Elder Rift run where he melts through big bosses, but how does this build do against blues, yellows, standard enemies? How well does it do? He grabs himself the cursed shards right there, and now let's see what his summons will do to all these blues that happen to be in front. It seems to me that as he makes contact with these enemies, they die. There's not much else that's happening except for death of everything that he encounters. This is a really cool build, and it's actually making me want to mess around with Dark Curse instead of Bone Armor that I'm currently utilizing. Now, I am waiting for the one essence I need to complete my build, which will make Bone Armor do damage for me, which in turn is going to be my biggest damage dealer, which is now dealing 0 damage because I don't have the proper essence. So I will mess around with my Bone Armor build and his Dark Curse build and determine which one I like better. We'll take it to the dummies and we'll see which ones actually do more damage. This is a very solid build, though. We're seeing it firsthand right here, how quickly it rips through the game. And if you are a Necro or you want to mess around with a summons build, this is a great one you could try. Thanks, Aaron, for the build. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing to the channel for news on Diablo Immortal, builds, and really anything Diablo Immortal related. Have a great day, guys.